What's going on, guys? Wayne here, and welcome to something that I've been so looking forward to doing this. Welcome to the Assassin's Creed Developer Podcast, and I didn't really think this would be possible. Me, a little YouTuber, I didn't think this would be possible, but here we are. It's Judgment Day, and let's just get this started. First off, let's introduce some of the two community members that will be joining us. We have the relentless redneck H3llbilly.
What's up?
We have montage YouTuber and community tournament manager and creator Kathy, aka iRossa.
Hiya!
And as our special guest, we have the oh, sorry, my chair nearly went funny. I think I was going to go fall off my chair then. Sorry. And as our very special guest, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome the community manager for Assassin's Creed III, Natalia, aka Charlotte Dubois. Did I get that right?
Yeah, that's alright. Hello.
And the Assassin's Creed III multiplayer game director, Damien Kieken.
Hello.
Please tell me I got both of the names right. I've been practicing
Yeah,
them.
no, that's fine. It's really, impressed.
Oh, that's a relief. Well, anyway, yes, this is a half Q&A, half open table podcast. Obviously, we will be asking Damien and Charlotte questions related to Assassin's Creed 3. There is no AC4 related questions. I made that perfectly clear when asking for the community to deliver questions, but clearly people don't listen. But we're going to stick to the AC stuff, and we're going to be talking about the community elements. We're going to be talking about game development questions, and then we've got a few roundtable and just fun topics we can discuss along the way. Now, first up, the relationship between the community and the development team. Since the multiplayer came to fruition in Brotherhood, it has evolved immensely, mainly when, honestly, in my opinion, mainly when Charlotte came onto the scene. Charlotte, this one's directed to you. How did you get into becoming the community manager, and what was your game set coming into, right, we are going to really build the relationship between the developers and the community?
So, I used to work for EA on Star Wars The Republic, and then I started looking for a job. There was this position for Assassin's Creed in NC. So I thought it was really cool, and I applied. Suddenly I got the job. I was really excited about this, but there had never been a community manager before that dedicated to multiplayer. There were UbiGabe and UBD on solo, but then Ubisoft thought it'd be good if someone took over the multiplayer, so I started there. I worked directly from the studio, so there was no organization in place at all. And there was a challenge because I needed to set everything up to get to know the tools and so on and so forth. So my goal was really to establish, to start this relation, because there wasn't much of a relationship between devs and community before. So what I did to do that is try to update you guys of what was going on. Would it be patches? Would it be design insights that I did with H3llbilly III? I was lucky enough that I got a dedicated game designer and a dedicated online programmer for any of your guys' questions, so they were able to answer really quickly. And then I tried to do a bunch of things, like podcasts, for instance, like today. Like if you host a fan site, or if you only have a YouTube channel, please go ping me on Twitter or on the forums, and I'm happy to answer anything.
Okay, in terms of the relationship, I don't really want to put it to a bad light, but was it really a shambles when you came onto the scene? Because beforehand, it was a bit of a train wreck. Even though Ubisoft, Gabe, for example, Gabe really did try all he really could. He worked his heart out to balance the single player and the multiplayer community feedback and all the rest of it. So when you came in, how difficult was it for you to set all this up, everything that you've done?
It was difficult to an extent, but before that I want to say that Gabe, he really has a lot of work to do with the solo, so I think that's why he didn't have all the time to dedicate to everybody. He still has a lot of work, like today, at this day, it's immense the work we have to do. But now that I've said that, I thought like it's really about being human. That's what is difficult because we're a company and I represent that company, and we want to show that we're human and that we want to have a relationship with you guys because your feedback is important to us. Because if you don't like the game, then the game's not going to be sold. It's as simple as that. So I wanted to try and establish that through like for instance, I host a weekly meeting in the studio with devs and people like Damien to talk about what you guys have to say. So I want you to make you guys known to the studio, and then I want you to know what the studio is doing and what they're thinking. So I try to do regular stuff, but that being said, I know there's still room for improvement. There's plenty we could do. Like I look at what other community managers do, and there's plenty we could do. I just haven't had time to get around that yet.
Oh well, in the end, I've no doubt, shadow of a doubt, and I'm sure Billy and Kathy will back me up on this. Since you've taken the mantle, you've done a fantastic job. Like especially with the likes of the patch updates and the champion pack updates and the dev tracker and everything. It's just been absolutely fantastic. So thank you. If anything, you've brought a bit of structure and order into the chaos that is Assassin's Creed community, multiplayer community. Next. In terms of the community, I'll pass this over to iRossa. In terms of the community, how, if you want to ask about the tournament side, because that's what you do, iRossa, like you obviously work a lot with the community tournaments, so...
Yeah. What I was going to say was, how does Ubisoft feel about community-run tournaments and the seasons? Because there's been 2 really big seasons this year, and there's another one that's starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were done. So we just started getting around esports. So when I arrived, we hadn't really had time to get around that in the studio. We're starting to do that. It's not just me; it's a bunch of people, really. We started with the abstergo Invitational to see if that was something that was possible.
Yeah.
It was a tryout to see how that would work out, and it was really cool. We're really happy with the result. We really like to see community tournaments. Like for instance, we saw the Artifact Assault season. We've been following up on that. I'm not sure if the tools we provide at the moment are sufficient for the community to provide us with like results and what's going to happen next and what are the next games and stuff. But we're really happy to see those, definitely.
Yeah.
We would like to see, like, we love to watch streaming of games. Like, sometimes I see people on Twitter, oh, look, I'm streaming some AC3MP, and I'll jump in. Even though I'm busy, I'll try to have a look every now and then. But we're very new to esport and want to be careful and do things right about this.
Brilliant. Also, do you think Ubisoft would consider sponsoring any of the tournaments to help the community grow?
It's something we've been asked before by specific people. Like I said, we're very new to esport. In the future, maybe, but at the moment, it's not something we're looking at because we're not certain. We just want to keep it cool at the moment and do things right. Like, want to start with something small and grow it bigger, rather than try to push it a lot and realize that we're not ready for this or that.
Yeah.
Okay. Just sticking partially with the community, because all these things about esports and stuff is great. I would really love esports to come into fruition. I've just slowly started getting into it myself. But I think, obviously, to make esports work in Assassin's Creed, if we put it in the position of Assassin's Creed 3, for example, obviously the game will have to be designed with that in mind. So for Damien, when you go into the mindset of creating a multiplayer, we'll call it in this case Assassin's Creed 3, what was the most important thing to you? Setting out the design of this multiplayer coming from Revelations to make it better, if anything. What's the main thing that you focus on when you go, right, we're going to make the new multiplayer?
That's a good question. In fact, what we try to do always is to do a better game than the one we just did. which is always a bit hard because you just finish your game and you're happy about it because you finished it, you spend a ton of time on it, and you're like, okay, so now what's next? Why haven't we succeeded? And you need to be very critical about what you've just delivered. So each time we start a new project, we look at what doesn't work or doesn't work as well as we'd like to before adding anything. And that's why you have seen a ton of patches and updates on AC3 throughout the year. It's because we want always to improve on the formula. And of course, we have big ideas or big new things that we try to bring in the game. So for AC3, for example, what were the biggest thing? I think the biggest thing on AC3 was the Wolf Pack, maybe, or at least it was one of the things where we spent the most time on it. The idea behind that was to deliver an experience that is not PvP oriented or a bit less, but more cooperative and oriented. So against the system, against the AI. But also we wanted to do something very different from what you see on other games like the Horde modes or Firefighting Halo or things like that. We wanted to something with the flavor of AC, and that's why we came with the idea of this fight against time and quality assassination like you have in all other modes. And yeah, that's mainly it. So each time we try to do something new, you will have big new things, of course, on AC4, but we can't reveal those today. But every day we try to mitigate between improving the formula, doing the right stuff, and also bringing new things to the game.
All right, great. One of the like Wolfpack, I love it, and I like the fact you can run it solo and with friends as well. So it's a nice middle ground between competitive multiplayer and the single player experience. So it's really nice. One of the other things you've introduced in terms of new content, in terms of the multiplayer and the community, is the events,
Yes.
which I love. Really good events, and it's nice to have objectives every once in a while. But H3llbilly has a question regarding that. If you want to answer that first question, then yours.
Yeah, I love the events. I think it's a great way to connect with the community. But what I was wondering is, when you're playing these events, it's still connected to the ranking system and to the ladder system. So if people are worried about their ranking and ladder, wouldn't you agree that maybe they wouldn't venture out and try these modes if their abilities are limited and things of that nature for fear of losing points or that? So is there any way to separate that in the future away from the ranking system?
Well, what we've noticed with events is that some people like them to be competitive and some do not. So, like you said, this is to be taken into consideration, but I don't think the system is going to change for AC3. Now, Damien, you can correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, you're not wrong. It's something we haven't anticipated because, as you said, some people like the fact that they can increase their ladder or their stats by playing the events. Because you have some players who are like, "Oh, I'm not playing the events if they don't bring me things on the things I want to improve on, like the ladders and the leaderboards." And others like you are more like, "Oh, I just don't wanna. I just wanna do the events for doing the event and not trying to best my scores or stuff like that." So I think you have the two type of profiles, but it's something we need to look at maybe for the future games to try to find a good middle ground on that.
Right. Okay.
Okay, great. In terms of, as H3llbilly just said, obviously you've got the likes of the competitive aspect, and then you've got the non-competitive aspects. And more often than not, the non-competitive aspects are, well, new players, or as H3llbilly said, players who don't have all the abilities unlocked and that sort of thing. In terms of when you went into the AC3 multiplayer, especially after the whole smoke bomb fiasco that spread far and wide in Revelations, how did you go in to try and balance the abilities and balance the whole thing between the returning players and new players? So obviously a lot of new players came into AC3 as their first game because it was heavily promoted as a returning and new experience for all kinds of players. How was the balance, trying to get that balance right for old and new players?
This is to be very honest, this is our hardest challenge, I think, we have every year. So how do you make a game that is still what our core community, like you guys, expect? So to be challenging and to have new deep things, and while not doing a game that is becoming only for you and that will be played by a very low amount of players because it can only be played by players who play it since several years. So we always have to find the right balance. So what we ask ourselves is that each time we bring something new or we change something, and let's say we want to do it for I don't know, for accessibility reason or stuff like that, we always ask ourselves, does it break the game? Does it make it exploitable? Does it make it less interesting for a core community? Because in the end, we are also a bit like you. We play our game every day. We play it a lot, and so we are experts at this game. And it's hard for us also to pinpoint what is hard to learn and hard to get at the beginning when you start with the game. So we have to try this balance, even more because it's a PvP game, so the difficulty comes with the player you face. So and that's why you have the whole matchmaking and simple deathmatch thing, and even Wolfpack is a kind of answer to that. If you are not facing players anymore, you can learn by yourself and things like that. So I don't know, do you feel we dumped a lot AC3? Because we don't feel that way, but your advice would, your thinking about that would interest me.
Kathy, or iRossa, Billy, any of you guys want to answer that before any of you guys think they've hit the nail on the head? What do you think? I love how you just look at me. Oh, great. To be honest, there are the balance is always important, like you just said, and like since going into, when you look at each game as a whole, some things come into play and some things are removed, and in the end it's all about just trying to find the right balance, because in the end, in terms of every multiplayer and any kind of competitive multiplayer, whether it be Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty, it will never be perfect for everyone. It's just a natural thing. But I think when things are introduced, like for example, the one thing that I have a gripe with in terms of progression from Brotherhood to Revelations and AC3 is the introduction of contested kills. Now I know why they were implemented, to allow to break that how can I kindly put this, that heavy conflict between attacking and defending, especially when an attacker is coming in and they make themselves known, and the person who goes to stun tries to, and then the animations dictate its top trumps, and the person who knew they were coming didn't get the stun and they were killed. And I understand why things like that were put in, but at the same time, I think things like that could be removed and it could still be balanced in between old and new players, because even more so now, the learning curve, even though it's still a big learning curve coming into a multiplayer for the first time. It's not as aggressive or as demanding as it was back in Brotherhood, so it can be a bit more open and a bit more, you're a new player, you got to pay your dues sort of thing, and you got to learn it, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So to go back on the example of the contested kill, I think this is a really good one. So even before Charlotte came, we were reading a lot the forums, but we were communicating a lot with you, but we were reading forums and knowing what was things working, things not working, and the biggest frustration that came during playtests, during reviews, forums, and stuff like that on ACB was the fact that people felt defenseless, and and even more, they were doing something in the game that the game didn't acknowledge at all. So like if I, as you said, if I try to stun or to do whatever, it's exactly the same as if they did nothing. It's like, no, we just don't care. The assassin wins, and that's the law. And so we try to not balance it more, but at least take into account the input of the target, to say, okay, you press the button, we acknowledge that, but you're still dying because the assassin is the guy who is killing you, and you're not killing him. You're just, and you're not even stunning him. In fact, you're just stealing him some points and doing a little points. And as you said, the first way we delivered it was in Revelation. Then we improved on it on AC3, and on AC3 it's still something we weren't really totally satisfied about it. So it's something that might again change, because as you said, the contested kill is a very sensitive subject. And I can't wait for you guys to see the improvements we've done on it. But it's, as you said, we try to find the right balance. I don't think the game is dumbed down on this aspect, to be honest, because if you're a very good assassin, if you're doing a very good approach, the guy won't even notice you, and you will kill him, and you won't get contested. So it's making also the job of the assassin harder, which is interesting. So yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah, just to continue on that for a second, because when you say, cause like obviously, I think when you say the players are defenseless, I think we're at the point now in the multiplayer where obviously we have a variety of tools and abilities at our disposal, especially with the introduction of ranged weapons. So with the more tools at our disposal for defensive purposes, it's a lot more balanced in terms of attacking and defending, even though a lot of them can be used to cross over. And when I say, I didn't mean to say dumbed down, I meant like because it's an established multiplayer. That's what I meant, because obviously there's 3 of them now, and back in Brotherhood it was new. It was a revolutionary experience, introducing a stealth, a very solid stealth mechanic system from a single player and integrating it into a multiplayer was a feat. So I was talking about in terms of that it's established, not necessarily it's been dumbed down. So sorry if I
No,
confused on that.
That's okay. Yes, it was also a way for us to just make the approach more important and the way you attack. So if you're really just running and don't take that as a running can be also a good strategy depending on the moments on the game, and we're not dictating a way to play or not. But if you were a bad assassin in ICB and just always running, constantly running, and never trying to do a stealth approach, it was the same as someone trying to do a stealth approach, and that didn't feel right for us. We wanted to be fair and to reward different ways to play. So that's why also the contested came in.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, in the end, if it stays in, I don't think anyone will really complain. I think it's become a part of the experience. But if it ever is removed, it'll be another learning experience and another learning curve for players to try and play the game without it. But thank you so much for that. It's actually cleared a few of my own personal demons on the whole thing. So thank you so much. Moving on. Let's do something a little bit light-hearted, just for fun, because we've got quite a few questions to get to. There was a few questions submitted by a subscriber of mine, and they were nice, light-hearted, open round tables. So I hope everyone can participate and have a good laugh with this. Not including anything that might appear in AC4. If you could just go nuts and just anything you could possibly do. Don't consider how the game is now and how the standard laws of the game apply. If you could create any kind of game mode, what would it be, and what would be the objective? And that goes for everyone. So if the community want to start off with this to see what they think,
Oh, I can start with that one.
go on, Billy, take it away.
I'm a deathmatch player first and foremost. I love the team modes. I love all the modes, but deathmatch first and foremost. And the reason why, it reminds me of the whole Roman Colosseum gladiator fight to the death in a real small area. The complaints I hear about deathmatch is the contract system and how that kind of works. So I wonder if maybe you ever think of a gladiatorial type system where it's a deathmatch type arena, but with an assassinate type control to it.
That would be fun. that would be fun. What do you guys think of that?
To be honest,
remember, this is just completely
no,
open.
but that's really fun because this idea, Sebastian H3llbilly, which is one of our game designer, he had exactly the same. Like I think at the beginning of AC4, he wanted to do something like that. So it's interesting that some ideas are crossing like that. He said exactly the same thing. What about an assassinate in a deathmatch arena? This could be fun, and so yeah, it's definitely really a good idea, I think.
iRossa, do you have one?
Well, Artifact Assault is my favourite game type on the whole of AC3. So, thinking about, spoken to a few people about this, or had a debate on Twitter about it, about different bases, like bases being moved so that they're on in different areas on the maps instead of being in the same two areas each time. Also, like a lot of people complain about having host advantage base, like because some bases are better than others. Having them switch so you don't necessarily have host base. I know there's a few problems maybe with that. Maybe switching the bases halfway through can cause a lot of issues, but thinking of moving the bases around would make games more interesting because you cannot predict where you're going to be defending, where you're going to be attacking, and it'll make it a lot more interesting for both sides.
So you're talking about dynamic base spawns,
Yeah.
really? That would be interesting. That'll add an extra layer of pace and mystery about it. What about that?
That's interesting. I think we would face a ton of issues trying to do that, as you said. So when you move the base, you don't want to advantage a team or another. Or maybe you have to look at their scores and try to advantage the team that is losing or something like that. But what I like even more is that what you try to fix with these ideas by the fact that, as you said, the team are not. It's not symmetric maps, so the team are not really equal on that side, or not perfectly equal. So you're trying to fix it by having moving bases. And that's what really interests me is what you try to fix. So what you think is not working the way you would like to.
All right, great stuff. I'll say mine, and then I'll really have to hear what the minds of the creators really have to say about what they could create. But if I had the keys to the castle, as it were, I would like to see a team-based assassinate, but with tag team elements. So a lot of the community like to do 1v1s, especially in the higher competitive areas, so you get the high prestiges, really like to do fun 1v1s in Assassinate. Now what if that was implemented in a team-based mode, so it's 1v1 and then when one of them dies, another member of the team is brought into the game, like the next one is tagged in, and I like the idea of rotating players and the idea it's a 1v1 but a team-based 1v1, so you get the competitive singularity but the competitive team nature of it all without necessarily breaking the likes of Manhunt. It would be an intricate blend between free-for-all and team-based planning and strategy, if anything.
And
it's an insane one. It's an absolute insane one. I just thought it'd be
and that could work with the deathmatch arena idea of Mister. So this you could have that in a deathmatch arena. That's also rotating players. I think it's something that is interesting and that we don't have today in the multiplayer of AC. So it's something you see in Shootmania, for example, or in Counter Strike or other games like that. It's something we can't do for the moment because you need a spectator mode. Then, you need to be able to see the guys playing or maybe to move around and things like that. And all of our crowd is generated through the player eyes for technical reason and stuff like that. So this is why we face a major technical hurdle to try to do spectator modes or rotating player stuff like that. But I think on the design ID, it's a valid idea.
Oh, well, so technically my idea would basically be impossible in technical limitation. Damn. Oh.
For the moment, yes.
Oh, well, fingers crossed, maybe in the future with next gen, hopefully the spectators from the likes of the Xbox One and PS4 might provide some kind of support. What do you two think, Charlotte, Damien, what if you could go mad, like you guys are the creators, if you could go mad, what would you do, just for the fun of it? It doesn't have to, it's completely off the record, it doesn't have to be serious, it's just a spitball. What would you go with?
Our designers do go mad on modes, and it's like we've seen a lot this year in terms of how crazy they can go. So I don't know if I can really answer that because I'm scared I would give out some stuff.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't consider that. Sorry.
But I think it's interesting to see that both H3llbilly and iRossa are looking to modify existing modes rather than creating entire new modes. I think that's a really interesting point.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've noted too. That you're always starting with a mode you really like and just try to change it the way you like to have it, which is interesting. And to be honest, deathmatch is exactly that. Deathmatch is, we started with Wanted and we wanted to make something different and it became deathmatch. So it was a bit the same starting idea.
Oh well, there we go. That's something new. I didn't know that. Oh, that's good. Speaking of deathmatch, I'm not asking you whether this will be in AC4, but during the development of AC3, did you ever consider making multiple areas for maps in deathmatch? Because it gets to the point where, especially now in the life cycle, where everyone knows the map inside out. They know all the locations. They know more than likely where a player of certain level will hide or where they will go. And it's very easy to suss out player movements in terms of where they're going to be and where they're going to go. Was the game plan to always have just one solid deathmatch map, like one little zone, or did you ever consider making multiple and just have it as a random selection?
To be honest, we considered it on AC3, but it was really hard to design good arenas, several good arenas per map. That was one of the issue we faced level design wise, and then we had also an issue more technical. So to pick the arena, it's for technical reasons. So for the moment, it's not something we've done, but it's definitively something interesting. And it's not the first time we hear it, and we had also the idea internally. So yes, I think it could really benefit to the deathmatch mod. To have multiple arenas on maps.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of deathmatch myself, and I also wish there would be more deathmatch zones per map. So it's something we totally agree on with you guys here, and something we've seen on the forums before. So we're taking that into consideration.
Yeah, you have these big, beautiful maps. I mean, and some of them are huge. And when I'm playing, I see different areas that I think, man, that would be a nice variety to be able to play this section of the map.
Yes, so we test. Before having one good arena, we test a lot of different places. But you need to have good LAN of side breakers, but not too many. So there is quite a few parameters that we need to take into consideration. We don't want it to be a corridor. It need to be more not a square, but more to have room to dive people and things like that. So it needs quite a lot of constraint, in fact, to do a cool deathmatch zone. But it's definitively a good idea. I can't say it's a bad idea.
What would you say is your talking to H3llbilly more, because I know, well, he said he loves deathmatch. So what's your favorite deathmatch map in AC3?
Well, it's probably going to be Fort Walcott. It's because it's got all the factors that I want to do for variety. I can get my grab kills, my aerials, my acros, my hiddens, and it's so constrained. I'm going back to that gladiatorial concept. When we're all in there together in real close quarters, I mean, you can really drop some high scores. And, you know, people like to drop high scores in these modes. So that's one of my favorites because of the variety. And I know you didn't ask this question, but one of my least favorites is going to be Virginia Plantation because it's just so huge. You know, you're running
It's just a bit too big.
Bit too big, yep.
Well, thanks for that.
Yeah, sorry, kind of interjected what I didn't like, but
No, it's all right. It's we've actually had a thread like this on the forum. What's your least favorite map? And I think we want to do some polls about this actually to see like which maps you've preferred over the different games and why you've preferred them, so that we can like take this into account to the making of our new maps.
What's your favourite, Kathy? Do you play much? I know obviously you do a lot of team-based stuff, but do you play much deathmatch?
I do occasionally. If I am just on my own on Xbox and don't really want to play any team modes, I would agree with H3llbilly in saying that Fort Walcott is my favourite as well, like for the same reasons. I mean, I've had some of my higher scores on Fort Walcott, and it's easy as well, like because you've got the like cave kind of thing, the back cave everyone calls it. That you can go and hide in, corner stuns everywhere, and then you've obviously got those ledges and that like building in the middle that you can get your grab kills on. And a lot of high prestiges do aim to get grab kills because they are worth so many points. So I would definitely agree with H3llbilly saying Fort Walcott.
I would call that a unanimous vote on Fort Walcott. Again, I like it as well. As iRossa and Billy said, you know, it allows for great variety. You've got the close quarters nature of the back cave. You've got the open area in the centre with the hut for aerials, and you've got the acrobatic bars, and then obviously you've got the main little corner of that castle, which is if you know how to defend it, it's a great defending area as well. If you're in top place and you've got four pursuers, it's a great place to defend from because there's only 2 points of entry. So, yeah, I'll have to agree with Fort Walcott. And again, with my least favourite, I would have to say Plantation again. Not necessarily, it's the far corner of the map. That far corner, I don't know what the corner is, with the little well, that little corner of the area.
Oh, yeah.
Where no one tends to go, but every once in a while someone will go there. And it's a great. I don't know if it's annoying or brilliant, but because the way it's designed, if you're after someone who's hiding there, they'll constantly drop in and out of your line of sight. So your indicators flashing insanely. It's like a little bat signal, just flashing beep beep beep, and you just don't know where they are. So it's a great area to try and confuse your opponent, but at the same time, I think that area is just a little bit too much. That's just my own personal opinion on it.
That's good to know.
But yeah, Fort Walcott all the way. Fort Walcott for the win. I think that's just a great map.
yeah, it's the best.
You said before, Damien, Deathmatch came through a rethink of Wanted. When you think about creating a new mode or dropping a mode, what is the thought process? I mean, do you look at all the statistics gathered from the previous games, or do you think, right, we're going to try something different and just put all your chips down the table? and so on. Because, for example, I loved Corruption in Revelations. I thought it was an interesting mode. It was one of my personal favourites. It was the only real. It was the only real team-based mode that I enjoyed playing in Revelations, and then going into AC3, it was gone, and I was like, oh, it was a great dynamic, and it was really, really new and something different. So, whether it be for Corruption or the modes like Alliance, what is your thought process in modes?
There are two questions, in fact. One is how do we come up with new modes, and the other one is how do we decide to keep a mode or not in the game.
Yeah.
So asking the first one, how do we come up with new modes? It depends. We are doing brainstorming and stuff like that, of course. But what we try to do always is to bring something new, so a new experience. Like Wolfpack is really different from everything we had. Domination's the same. It's really different from everything we had, even if it's something that you can see in other games. But with our AC Twist, it becomes really different. So each time we try to bring a new experience. So for the deathmatch, for example, the idea was to do. I like the Gladiator idea, but was to have very more frequent scores, because everybody is on everybody. So it's like a Wanted where you don't have to run for 30-40 meters to join your target, because your target is right away in front of you. And it was just to have everybody on everybody and see how it works, and get rid of other things like chase, like lookalikes and stuff like that, and only rely on abilities and player knowledge of the map, and that's how we've built deathmatch. So it's really depending on the modes. Domination is something we started on ACR, and it was finished for AC3. We wanted to have a team mode where people choose what to do, different tactics, which zone to attack, and things like that. And I think it's the mode we've played the most on AC3 internally. And then how do we decide to drop modes? Or it's, as you said, it's more statistics than anything else. So we look at all the modes played by the player, the most played. Also, we have statistics like when players try the mode but don't come back to it, or things like that, or they play it a lot at the beginning when the game launches and then they don't play it anymore. So it really depends, but it's mainly based on stats, on player thinking also, and what people think internally also. There are a ton of other reasons. So if I take back the example of corruption was an exception to all of our rules. So the teams were changing. There was free rounds, and there was a ton of exception for the HUD, for the how do we display the team and stuff like that. So it was a very, very costly mod, because nothing was like it in the whole game. So it was a very costly mod to maintain, even test-wise, or to develop a new HUD and stuff like that. And on the other hand, it was one of the least mods played by the community. So, and sometimes we have to make hard decisions, but we can't keep everything. So we have some time to get rid of some modes. Personally, it's a mod I really like, Corruption, because I think there was really good moments where you were two guys remaining and everybody behind you, and you were trying to lead the pack to the other guy so that they kill the other guy and not you, and so you had very high and intense moments that worked really well. But in the whole, it didn't succeed as much as we'd like to. So it didn't came back, and it's a bit the same with Alliance. Alliance was an exception because we had a ton of teams and things like that. You have to know that for matchmaking reason, for example, all modes start with the same number of players and have the same max number of players and things like that. So all those reasons are made so that people find match quickly and the matchmaking is smooth and things like that. So we have huge constraints on what mode to keep and to do and things like that. So those are mainly the reason why we sometimes drop modes and bring new ones. And in the end, we don't want to have too many modes in the game, because then everybody, the whole community is splitting on many different experiences, and they can't find matches or things like that. So we have to have hard choices.
Yeah, I think that was evident in AC. You just said then about dividing the community when you was introducing what was it called? Was it called Hardcore Alliance and Hardcore Wanted? Yeah. Well, the hardcore element of all the modes. So yeah, I think that's definitely an example of too many modes in the game. Even though I liked the idea of what the hardcore implementation was, I liked the idea, but again, it was heavily dividing the community within even more directions than needed. So hardcore was dropped just for the very reason you just stated, I guess.
Yeah. It was one of the reason, and also it was really not played at all. Often we have people saying, "Oh, I want to see back corruption," or "Oh, I want to see back alliance." I never heard anybody saying me, "Oh, I want to see back a hardcore version of modes," for example. So it was, even in the core community, not the most popular thing.
Yeah, I guess so. Kathy, do you want to ask one of the community questions? Get one of Gizmo Dragon's questions, if you've got the question list in front of you.
Yep. Can I ask one about abilities?
Yeah, it's related into the decisions and choices still, yeah.
Why there were certain abilities taken out, like Sprint Boost from ACB, which, thinking about it, could be really useful in things like Artifact Assault, or in Manhunt if you decided you wanted to point stuff like that, and why there was the introduction of Animus Shield and Wipe, which is basically Templar Vision and Mute put together, and also why the ranged abilities slot was brought in.
So there are a ton of questions in one again. First, why didn't we bring back Sprint Boost? It was for a very simple reason, technical. When you have people running faster, it's making the lag worse, for example. So you can have bigger range of uncertainties. And so, like on your game, the guy is in front of you, while on his client, he's like 10 meters away from you. And those distances are becoming way bigger when you're accelerating the player's displays moving. So it was mainly for technical reason. We often speak about lag. It's not something we don't control. Lag is a physical issue, but one of our mission as a developer is try to hide it and to make it the less visible possible for the players. And the boost was exactly doing the contrary of that. So it was making even more obvious, and it was just creating bug in the game. So we decided to remove it. And on the other questions, why did we bring back? Why did we develop the range weapons? It was just to give more depth to the game and give other tools. In fact, there are two reasons. We wanted all players to always have a ranged weapon, and to not have it as a choice between a range and a not range weapon, because we want players to be able to interact with players at distance, or players on the roof, or when you're on the roof, player on the ground, and things like that. We want to always give this tool, and this also is better for balancing for us, because it means that a player can only have one ranged weapon at the time, which is also good for us for balancing. So those are the two reasons why we've done that. And on the why wipe and why shield? So for shield, we wanted an ability that was really strong about countering other abilities. So it's a very good counter to smoke bomb, for example, or to knife, to gun, of course. Again, the idea is when we develop an ability, we always want to find a counterpart to it, or it needs to be countered by some other existing abilities. And this is how we make the game balance in a way. And for the wipe, why did we change it? It's because the mute was really close to a smoke bomb in the end, so they were a bit doing the same thing but differently. And as I said, we want to have more variety and more complementary tools than just having the same but that they don't look the same. So that's why we decided to work on the wipe and to have an ability that was more working on sound and things like that, which is something we haven't investigated a lot before. So that was also one of the reasons why the wipe became the wipe.
Awesome. Regarding the ranged abilities, there's been a lot of discussions about this, especially for things like Artifact Assault and Domination, and also Assassinate, is that everyone has knives and they can become so frustrating, especially if you're an attacker in Artifact Assault. Would you ever consider removing the ranged weapons for future multiplayers, because knives can become really overpowering, and for defenders, just having two abilities like in Revelations, which would be something like knives and teleport or knives and shield or something like that.
To be honest, I think if we have issues, so balancing issues, rather than removing the range ability slot, I would try to balance it more, or to give tools for the players to fight against the knife than removing the knife, for example. I think it would be better to try to work in that way. But for the moment, no, we haven't planned at all to remove the range abilities. I think since now IC3 are part of the multiplayer and they bring a lot of depth, if there are stuff that are not balanced, we'll try to balance it, of course, to make it good. And that's one of our hard challenge too, is that they need to be balanced for all modes. And you're not doing the same thing in all modes, of course. So, for example, an ability that we really that can be not useful at all in one mode can become overpowered in the other mode, and that's one of the things that is really hard for us also on the balancing side. And that's why we don't want to have too many modes too, so to be able to balance the whole thing all together.
I think ultimately everyone has their favorite and least favorite ability. So they're my least favorite, for instance, is poison. I hate poison. I hate it. But it's I'm sorry to say that it's not really corporate, but I think it's just everyone has their favorite and least favorite, and I think that if we start removing abilities and we don't have a specific reason to remove them, it's incredibly overpowered or anything. People that liked and used this ability and disliked another one are going to be frustrated. I mean, I always try to put myself in place of other people that would actually enjoy that ability.
Yeah.
I gotta say that I find that interesting, what Kathy said, because personally I don't think the knives are strong enough, because when you throw a knife, or if you get hit by a knife, you'll often end up spamming the ability triggers to drop a smoke bomb, and you'll end up getting caught with it and getting killed or getting stunned. So it's again, as you were saying about the dynamic between modes, as Kathy was talking about team-based modes in the likes of Deathmatch and Wanted. I don't think knives are powerful enough. They should just cut out the ability to use any abilities at all, very similar to the way Mute worked, where it just cancels out until the effect, the limping effect has worn off. So again, as you were saying, it's and now me and Kathy, a few knives. It's an interesting balance, and it's a balance which is really difficult to get, really.
Yeah.
Talking about that, when I created the rules for the Manhunt season, we had to consider a lot of the abilities. I mean, finally we did decide we were going to remove wipe because we felt that it was kind of overpowering, and having wipe will remove stealthiness. So we were thinking about shield as well. I mean, the biggest issue that people have is that shield can become really overpowering, but if we remove shield, smoke bomb becomes really overpowering. So what we were looking at is the fact that a lot of high prestige players will knife you and put shield on, and once that happens, you know you're going to die. You haven't got to choose, or you know you're going to get stunned. So as soon as those abilities come together, like especially in Artifact Assault as well. Personally, myself, I do use shield because it deflects knives and smoke, so you can kill the carriers. But as soon as you get knifed and they're not a distance far away enough for you to teleport or knife them back or anything, they're going to put shield on, and that's it. You're going to die. So that's the biggest issue. We had to balance abilities. That's why in the season certain weeks have restrictions. Like there is a week where shield, there's 2 weeks actually where shield are completely removed, because we want to see how prestiges will work having their abilities restricted, because it will show their skill more than them having to rely on their abilities.
So what would be ideal is actually for each mode to be able to restrict the abilities, like we do in events, for instance.
See, I've got quite a few friends who are in Assassinate, and they are tired. Like the biggest issue with them is they'll be knifed and chase killed by a lower level or something, and that's going to happen a lot. So having this is a few people have said this to me. Having Assassinate where there is no smoke on whatsoever. I've had that mentioned to me a few times, and also game modes where there's no like knives or teleport, stuff like that. Even purist lobbies, so ability like some simple deathmatch, but I know purist is fun, like in Artifact Assault and Assassinate. So having maybe those game modes with a lobby which can be purist, so no abilities whatsoever, just to rely on skill rather than abilities, like I said.
Yeah, it's really interesting because every time we do an event with restricted ability sets, we get really positive feedback about that. So I think it's something we should look deeper into and maybe do more events restricted like this. But we do have more events coming, so we'll see for that.
I think what you talked about then was interesting, because you talk about the idea of customization of lobbies, and at this point right now it would be impossible. Just to theorize for a second, if for example say dedicated servers were put in place for AC3, and servers could be rented, very similar to what the likes of EA and DICE do with Battlefield 3, the ability to rent servers and then customize them so the likes of certain abilities can't be used, maybe the time could be extended. It would be interesting, but again, I think you really talked about customization of the lobby and the requirements of what you can do in those particular maps and those particular modes. If I'm getting that correct, Kathy.
Yeah, definitely. Private matches are a pain at the moment, especially with also this goes back to the season. This also goes back to the Artifact Assault season. You have to wait the 10 minutes for that first match before you're on the right team. That's the biggest issue, is you're not on the right team, and I think that does get on a lot of people's nerves because it takes a lot of time, and for full matches that can end up like being nearly an hour long, just like waiting for them to finish. So, but also the idea of being able to customize the ability restrictions, because I mean there's like I said, there have been ability restrictions for the season. There are going to be ability restrictions. Having them completely removed so that no one can use them, even if it's an accident, whatever, just so it controls it a bit more. But regarding host as well, like Artifact Assault, the host will get the host base as well. So like maybe not having host gets host base, stuff like that. So being able to customize which team gets which base, which team goes on offense first, defense first, whatever, just mixing it up so you have more control over what you're the private lobby you are creating.
That's a lot. That's a lot of parameters. But we hear you on that. It's not the first time we're getting this feedback, like I said. So it's we know it's a frequent request, and we'll consider stuff like that.
All right, we'll move away from that because Well, as Charlotte said, it's on it potentially could be on cards. That wasn't an AC4 reference, but yeah, at least there are some similar opinions in the community for the possibility of certain things to be implemented. We'll break it up and we'll move on to a community based question related to the community. Noctalia, Charlotte Dubois, how do you feel about YouTubers, and how does the rest of the multiplayer team feel about YouTubers? Like mainly me, Charlotte, me, Kathy, and H3llbilly are all YouTubers. So, how do you guys feel about us recording gameplays and uploading them on the internet for people to see and all that stuff?
I think we can all agree that we love it. It's especially lately, I've seen a lot of really good montages, and I really like them. We have some people that are more kind of they're like more commentaries. I like montages better, to be honest, because I like the artsy part of it. But we really do love everything. Like YouTube videos, you have no idea how they help our testers. Like when I say, hey, we have this bug, and they're like, okay, but we cannot repro. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't have a video because I don't know the exact conditions in which it happened. So if we have a video of that, it's great because they're able to repro really easily. But all that just doesn't just apply to YouTube content, of course. I just want to say that because I know some people have fan sites and like to write articles about characters and stuff. So it's all types of contents. Like community created content is great. We've got some really cool fan art. We got some from I don't remember her exact name. It has Leaf in it, but I'll look it up and I'll give you the link because it's excellent what she does. So if you do have like anything like that, please send your fan sites our way. And like I said, we're open to that type of podcast with anybody, not just YouTubers. So yeah, please keep going for everybody.
Damien, how do you feel about YouTubers? Just to wrap this one up.
I love when Charlotte is sharing us some videos. So sometimes she sends videos to the whole studio and we watch it. I don't have a ton of time to watch all of them, to be honest, but I really do like montage on our game, even silly montage or funny things. Or I think the last one I watched, it was two guys who never played AC, and they just commenting it, and we were playing domination, and they didn't understood anything at all. But it was really funny because and quite instructive for us because we were like, okay, they don't get that. That's interesting. Why don't they get that? And
they finally got it though. They started getting it and they were having fun. But I think what I thought when I saw this is that some people might have given up by the time they understood it. So it was really interesting for us as well.
Oh, I'll have to see if I can find that video. That sounds like a good thing to watch. H3llbilly, my good sir, you have a subscriber question from your channel. Would you be so kind?
Sure. One of my subs, Orbidor, he wants to get a little bit of insight into the developer process. He says, given Ubisoft's one game per year schedule, how often do the developers maintain the game? And I guess a little clarification on that is, what part of the team breaks away to work on a new project? And then is there a dedicated team that stays just to work on bugs and glitches and all of that?
Well, I can talk about the maintaining because that's what I've been doing. Like my job is mostly after the game launches to support you guys and try to see if we can get patches into the works. So we do have, like, our testers are dedicated to helping on that. Whenever I have a bug, so I do a lot of reporting, and when it's urgent, I just go to them. They're actually just sitting in front of me. So I just go to them like, hey, can you test that out? And so that's why we've been able to have that many patches and with details patch notes in there. I do know that's not perfect yet though, because like we all know we have this problem with the miner hack, for instance. I don't want to be shy to talk about that because we know it's a problem. And the only thing about this is that since we support at the moment 4 platforms, so every time we want to make a patch go out, it takes a lot of time to repro. like to be able to repro 100%. And even when we do, which is what happened last, because I know that might be one of the questions, even when we do repro, it might happen that we miss one of the repro cases. And so we want to try to take the time to do everything really right with this. So this is why patches can take some time to come out, not in the fact that there's a lot of steps into releasing a patch for each and all platforms. There's reproing, then a dev will try to fix the bug, then testers will re-repro, then it will go to quality control, then it will get back to us, then we'll send a version. Well, it takes a lot of time anyway. So I can answer about that part. Now for how the teams are handled, maybe Damien is more appropriate to answer that.
Yeah, it's very quick. In fact, we have some people dedicated to SE3 today, like Charlotte, and who are working on the bugs, as you said, on reproducing the bugs and fixing it. Also for the events, of course, and stuff like that. So we have still some people involved on SE3 to maintain it and to make it good and to make it better than what it was at launch, for example. And the other part of the team is working on AC4, of course.
Okay.
Okay. Oh,
One
are you happy with that, Billy?
question? Just one quick question. Now, you mentioned that it's helpful to get videos to show any kind of glitches or bugs so you can send it to the development team and get a fix on it. Is there maybe another medium that we can use besides the forums to do that? Because I would really like to be able to send you, say, the ability reset glitch where it was happening in Manhunt and we would be offensive muted and their abilities would reset without it spreading like wildfire through the community. Like when somebody was angry about the minor hack glitch, they put it on the forums and then it just went ballistic. Everybody knew how to do it. Is there another medium we can use?
Yeah, that's one of the problems. Like for exploits, I cannot say that enough. I try to say it whenever I post on the forums, but it's best if you do not share it to everybody because then it spoils everybody's experience. So what you can do is send me a private message on the forums and put your video on private, or you can contact support and then they get back to us. So it's either one of the two. I try to answer all of my private messages. Sometimes I'm a bit late on that because I get quite a bit, but I try to. So like you can either DM me on Twitter or send me a private message or contact support, and if it's not an exploit, get on the forums because the more people we have, the more cases of people we have, the more precise we can be when we try to repro.
Okay.
You happy with that, Billy?
Yes, sir.
Good man. As you said, Charlotte, we have to touch upon this because it was the number one asked question on the forums and in the subscriber base. The minor hack glitch, it came back because it was repro. That there was a problem. Something went wrong in the repro trying to sort out another bug or another glitch. If I'm right, how did it come back?
It didn't come back because it's not exactly the same thing that's happening. We fixed a certain part of the problem, but not the whole of it because we didn't spot the whole of it. So we've had, like, there was the first part that we spotted, and we got sent videos on. And thank you for those of you who did this privately. And then the other part that will be fixed in the upcoming patch very soon. I can say in the next couple of weeks, I would say. That's something a bit different. It's a different method, but it's the same result. So what you see happening is the same result. It results in the glitch we all know now. So it was something we had not spotted, and we want to take our time on this patch to make sure we fix it, and we're not finding ourselves be like, okay, look, this is fixed, and then it's not fixed, because honestly, this sucks for everybody. It sucks for me, it sucks for you, it sucks for the testers. Everybody has to redo the job. It's not fun.
Yeah, I think we can all agree with that, and there's the answer, and we'll move on from it. Well, there we go, everyone that's listening. I hope that answers your question about the minor hack. Damien, you mentioned you were talking about the support and stuff. I'm going to stick this to AC3 related, but with the likes of Assassin's Creed 4 coming out, and obviously it's coming out on current and next gen as well, and I have a feeling that the community will be on a mix on which version to buy. So There probably will be, because there's a next gen console release. A lot of the community will be staying with their current system with AC3 before they commit to buying AC4 on whatever platform. So, judging by what you said about the support, will the support team be working doubly hard when AC4 comes out? To try and keep AC3 working and up to scratch with bugs and updates during that process, that time before people decide which way to go with AC4.
That's a good question. I don't know what is planned exactly, to be honest, but what I can tell you is, as you said, we have 2 more platforms this year, so it will take a lot of people to maintain those 2. So at one point, maybe we'll have to do choices and maybe privilege more the AC4 maintaining than the AC3 one. But AC3 will still working, of course, and things like that. But we aren't 1,000, so we won't be able to maintain all game versions and all platforms, to be honest. So I think priority for the studio will be AC4, of course, on all platforms. So we won't maintain more the next gen than the current gen or whatever. It's equal and it's balanced. So we'll have to put the same efforts on all platforms. But it's like today we still have a ton of players playing ACB because they like ACB and they can still play. It's just that we are not fixing a ton of things on it because it's working like it works. I think AC3 will be the same, to be honest. We are patching everything, we're fixing all bugs, and I think when AC4 will come out, AC3 will be not bug free, but will have a very good experience for all players, so it should be okay.
Oh, good. Well, that's good. I'm sure a few people will be happy with that. Okay, moving on to this is one. H3llbilly, would you like to ask the questions regarding DLC menus?
Oh, the extra content maps and things of that nature? Yeah, the maps that you guys release for the DLC are absolutely beautiful. Going back to Revelations, I forget the name of the one map, but all of them are all beautiful. And the bad thing is the way that it's kind of released, we don't really get to play it that much. The activity is really low. And I've been thinking about this since Revelations and now with AC3 that if maybe those maps could be unlocked as part of a community event and released into the regular rotation, that would just be great. Because as it stands now, nobody really plays them.
No,
wait. Sorry, can I say? Yeah. Sorry, Damien, I didn't mean to cut you off. Which I have to really back H3llbilly up on this because it is a shame because those maps are gorgeous and they really deserve to be played. And they're really well designed. That's the real shame. It's a real letdown on the developer side, because like, you guys build these great maps and not that many people, play them, and it's a shame. It's a waste of art, really, if anything.
No, it's a very valid point. It's something we totally acknowledge. We'd like everybody to buy it, of course, and everybody to enjoy those maps. But as you said, we don't have all players who bought the multiplayer AC3 and plays on the multiplayer for buying the DLC. So of course you have less people playing on those DLC, and so you have less activity, and it's maybe a bit harder to find your match at certain points during the day or things like that, depending on in which country you are, things like that. So it's a really valid point. For the moment, it's really the best solution we found because those maps, they cost a lot of money to be built. A map in AC is really taking a lot of resources because it has to be good on not only on the ground, but you have to be able to climb everywhere, to don't have dead ends and stuff like that. So it has a lot of design level design constraint, and it's taking a huge part of the team just to build the maps and to make them good for multiplayer. We have way harder constraints for the multiplayer on the maps than on the single player, for example. Because if on the single player you can't climb on a thing, that's okay. You will just take too few more seconds to take another route. But in the multiplayer, if you can't, you're dead. and then you will blind the game for that, which is not good because you thought that you could climb, which totally makes sense for us. So for the moment, the best solution we found, it's something we tried different, we thought at different things, but we haven't found anything yet. It's something I really want to improve on the next game, and we're still working on it. I can't tell you what we do or what we won't do, but it's a problem where everybody is aware of it. And as you said, the content is really good, and it's a shame that not everybody can play on it. But we can't just throw our money out, of course. So we need to find a way to have the most people playing it, and also to make the money back on those. So we'll try to find a good way to do that.
Considering that at the point where we're at now in terms of the life cycle of AC3, say we get to the point where we're coming up to the end of, we're coming up to AC4's release, and say we get an event, as H3llbilly said, will those extra DLC maps be able, like technically, will they be able to be integrated, to be unlocked? Like, is it actually technically possible in terms of the installation and the way the game is built?
It's not built like that on IC3, so it wouldn't be possible to do it on events and things like that. Even if it's on the player side, I agree, a good idea. It's something that was also asked on ACR to release the maps now for free, and just to have more people playing on it. You have also to know that we are not the sole decisionary on those subjects. So each time when you have money involved, there is quite a lot of people who are taking decisions at Ubisoft, and not only us. So we have to find the best way to do those for you guys and for Ubisoft too.
Also, I think that for people who paid for the DLC, it wouldn't be totally fair. Like, I don't know, it's like you paid for these maps and then everybody gets them for free. You know what I mean?
I bought the season. I paid for them, and to be honest with you, I've paid for them, and I really want to play them. I'm more than happy to see them out go free, just as long as I get a chance to play them. I'm not fussy if I've spent £12 here. I just want to see that £12 invested in something. So if they go out free, just for me to get a chance to play them, without the fear of running into a booster lobby, great, all in my opinion. But I know where you're coming from. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off then.
No, that's okay. I'm happy to hear your opinion as well, but that's a tricky thing every time we take decisions. It's to take most people's opinion into account, and so I try to take both sides into account.
Are you happy with that, Billy?
Yes, sir.
The answers. We're coming up close to the end, so we're going to start wrapping this up soon. The ranking system and the ladder. Now, this is obviously based in terms of the community and the development side, because it was previously, we've talked about the ladder previously a bit earlier on, but what was the decision? How did you come to the decision to remove ranked matches? So remove standard matches, because you have the ranked match and then you have the player match back in Brotherhood. What made the decision to eliminate all that and just tie it into one solid option to play? Because as H3llbilly stated, like, if you end up getting into a ranked match, and this ties into the events and stuff, if you're not really that competitive, or if you're not in the mood for a competitive match and you just want to play for fun and just relax, you've come back after a hard day's work, you just want to play a couple of relaxing rounds, and you lose, push comes to shove, but you end up losing a mountain of abstergo credits, abstergo points, and you end up going down the ladder. I think this ties into the event question, but was your decision to remove ranked and standard matches a difficult one, if anything?
Yes, each time we remove something, it's not an easy action. But to be honest, it's the sole reason and the biggest reason is for community split again. So when you're splitting your community between ranked and non-ranked match on the same modes, and they're playing, like for example, the same map, those players are not playing together while they could be playing together. So we just talked about that subject with the DLC. It's the same reason for the ranked and unranked match. We don't want to split the community too much. We have the events which are cool, but are splitting the community too. And so we're trying to lower down the number of ways to split our community. To be honest.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I know that question kind of just ties in into what we previously said, but at least the question has been solidly asked. We're going to be wrapping this up soon. Again, so we've got 2 more questions just to wrap this up. If you could create any this is another beautiful little round table one where everyone can just relax and go free. If you could create any kind of multiplayer character, what would he or she look like? Can go absolutely mad. You could anything you wanted. What would you go? We'll start off with the developers this time round. What would you choose if you could just go mad?
Well, like I told you off record in the beginning, I wanted to have a character called the Otter, but it's apparently not an option. So my ideas apparently are bad. Artists have way better ideas than I do. But just to give you like an idea of what I do enjoy, my favorite character is the Hessian in AC3. But it's apparently not most people's opinion. When we look at the stats, he's not the favorite characters, or when we look at many people's. But I like sort of serious manly characters. That's what I like.
And Damien, your 2 cents?
It's again, I'm not involved into that at the office, so it would be easier for me, I think, to answer it. But I really do love like the independent and characters like that. So it would be a character like that. Also, I work quite a lot internally to dream about doing some crossovers, some having like characters of other games or other stuff in AC. This could be also really fun in our multiplayer.
Oh, that would seriously sort out some really wanted stuff from the community. I think that's one of the most biggest things related to multiplayer characters.
Sometimes we have fun thinking about that. We're like we're just talking, like having fun about that. What would it be if we had Rayman in the multiplayer? But that doesn't really work out at all. Or Glowbox, it would just no.
You would spot them very easily into the crowd. I think.
Hey, this guy doesn't have arms. What's happening? Okay, it's Raymond.
I wouldn't mind seeing Vass from Far Cry 3 make an appearance.
Yeah,
I think that would be.
Oh, he's so badass.
Something.
Yeah, he's really cool.
Yeah.
If you're able to bring the voice actor in as well and redo some of the voices related to Assassin's Creed, like that would be a really fun thing to do. Hellbilly, Kathy, what do you think? If you could go mad with any kind of multiplayer character, look like anything, what would you go with?
Ladies first.
Oh.
My favourite ever character is the Jamarosa from ACB. I absolutely love her. So bringing her back, but changing her a bit, like thinking about like champion pack stuff like that, changing her hairstyle. But if anything, I want her back because I absolutely love her. But just changing her a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Really?
I don't know. I'm a big history buff. Obviously, is one reason why I love this game. But to see some kind of Egyptian type warrior or Spartan or Aztec or Mayan, something like that. And I know the Indian is in AC3, but something like that. You guys do a great job with development of characters, but and I'm sure that we'll have more and more variety as it goes on. But
well, it's good. It's good for the team that does the characters, because they do spend a lot of time trying to give an entire new cast of cool characters every year. So they'll be happy to hear that, I guess.
And for me, I couldn't think of one because I have so much fun with the characters already implemented, and like in my videos, I give them all little names. So it's like I'll call it Jack Sparrow's missus for the Corsair in AC Revelations, Jack Sparrow's wife, and Rorschach, and obviously you've got the well-known Justin Bieber. So I always have fun with that, customizing them in a certain way and then giving them a name to fit that look. So I couldn't really think of one because I just like to be creative with the characters that are already there and just have some fun with that. But yeah, as Hellbilly said, great job on the characters, and like they're a lot of fun, and I can't really wait to see what appears with AC4, really, with the pirate thing.
You'll see. We can't say
Yeah,
much.
no, that wasn't an asker. I was just saying I really cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, last but not least, Hellbilly, would you ask your final question?
Sure. What is my final question?
Not 17, not 17, 14, good sir.
Okay.
Because 17 can't be answered because Angie is unfortunately.
Yeah, this is a real important one to me. I've got a lot of friends on different systems. You know, Wayne's on PlayStation. I'm on Xbox. Rose is on Xbox. Some of my friends are on PC. Given kind of the technology and the logistics and legal aspects of connecting all these servers, is there any way ever to do cross-platform matches?
So it's vas-y. Yeah, so it's again, it's a good idea. On our side, it would be better. So it means that everybody's playing together. So it means you have more people with the DLC and things like that. So we could split more the community and things like that. But it's not. In fact, it's not a choice. So and even like I think they announced on Xbox One. I read that people on Xbox One won't be able to play with people on Xbox. So even from the same manufacturer, they can't play together. So it's not something we're allowed to do. That's all. Period. We can't do that. We're not allowed to do that. And then of course we would have big technical hurdles to make that possible. But it's not an open question, in fact.
Yeah, but you would love to do it though. Say all the logistics and all that stuff were just completely ignored. It would be something that you would really like to consider and look at if it was possible through all the limitations.
Yeah. From a developer point of view, it would be better for us because it means one community, it means everybody playing together, so it's cool. We wouldn't be able to do events where to see who is winning first, if it's PS3 or Xbox or stuff like that, of course. But for us, it would be better to have one single community playing all playing together. But it's not an option.
It would, like, I was looking at the forums and I saw that question from SquirrelInDaSky, who is talking about hosting events as devs versus community. And this is another, like, having multiple platforms is another problem with that, because it would mean hosting 4 different events, one for PC, one for PS3, one for Xbox, one for Wii U. And so that's one of the problems we have. So it requires a lot of coordination, but it would be really fun. And it's also something, like, talking about devs versus players. We actually invited players to the studio recently. They're the guys who won the abstergo Invitational. That was like the grand prize was to come to the studio. So we invited them, and we scheduled some developers to play against them. And we had them played on Xbox, and they were PS3 players, so they were like really disturbed with that. But multi-platforms is hard, but at the same time, want the most people to be able to play the game.
And what were the results of that match?
It depended, because we had several teams of devs, and they were all really happy to get to play against the players. So we had the game designer team, we had the tester team, and we had the level design team. Yeah. So it was each time was an hour, and so for the designers, they won, I think, most of their games. Testers did too, but they did lose a game as far as I remember, and level designers lost almost everything. Also, to be fair, level designers, they played on Manhunt, which was the players. They played on Manhunt, and these guys that came to the studio, they're like absolutely awesome in Manhunt. So, to be fair, I think that was the reason why.
They haven't lost any Manhunt match, in fact. They lost only matches on other modes.
Yeah. That is true. So they're really good at
So
manhunt.
they're really specialized in manhunt. Yeah.
So
I would have loved to have seen that.
it wasn't really fair on our part to make them play in manhunt, but I mean, we had to do it, you know.
I would have watched that if that was live streamed. I would have sat there and spent all day watching that if that was live streamed.
That's it. Inviting players to the studio, it was a really fun experience, so we're considering doing it again. It's not there yet, but we're thinking about it, so maybe someday.
Someday. Oh, that's good to hear. Okay, we're coming up to 90 minutes and it's the end of this podcast. Thank you so much for coming, guys, from the bottom of my heart. That's the special guest developers and Kathy and H3llbilly. You know, thank you so much, Charlotte, Damien. It means the world to me. You know, I didn't think I would get this going, and I didn't think this would be possible. And here we are. You know, we've had a good chat, and thank you so much. And I hope you was happy answering all the questions, and I hope Kathy and H3llbilly were happy with the answers. Everyone happy?
Yeah, we were happy to
Yes,
answer
yes.
like all the questions that you guys had. So, and I do hope we provided good answers to these, and that you're satisfied with this, and that we may do something like that together again in the future, maybe.
Oh, if I could do this again, I would absolutely love to. I would love to do this again, but hopefully
Maybe not next week, but
not next week, but hopefully, you know, hopefully on the next one we could talk about AC4. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
that would be really cool.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. E3 around the corner. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you, a big thank you to all of the guests. I hope to do another podcast with everyone soon. Big special thank yous to Damien Kieken and Charlotte Dubois. And as always, guys, take care, be safe, and I will see you in the next one. I think we all in this podcast love you all. Wayne out, guys. Peace. Say bye-bye, everyone.
See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye bye.